Here we go. So my suggestion to you guys is that when you're dealing with files with Ladybug, you don't want to bog them down. So my thought, not being a complete expert in this yet, is that you probably want to keep these separate ideas as separate files, right? And when I say ideas, right, like normally in a Grasshopper definition, I would just group this, turn it off, and move on to the next step. I think that with this, we probably should save it and start a new file. So let's save this. Make sure that you save it. It's very, very important. That's the wrong class. That's also the wrong class. No, call this one 3D graph weather data or something like that. Am I saving them in the project file? I think I am. Yeah. So 3D graph weather data. Okay, so then at that point you could either go to File, New File, or just delete it and then save as, call it something else. This next one we're actually going to create a sun path diagram. So I'm calling this one sun path diagram. And in fact, I don't think I wanted to delete everything, but I did. Oh no, I didn't. Okay. So the only thing that I want to keep on this one is just this stuff. The Fullerton EPW file and the import EPW. Yeah, you can Control Z. It should still keep, if you did a save as the way I did it instead of a new document, it'll still keep the file allocation to your new file. So then you can just save document.
So which one do you just want to keep? The Fullerton?
Fullerton and import EPW.
What do you call it? This one?
Sun path diagram. All right, let's get going with this. The sun path diagram is sort of a collection of a couple different bits of information that come out of the EPW file, at least by my understanding. So let's go to under Ladybug. And I think it's under environmental analysis. Visualize weather data. There it is. Visualize weather data. Ladybug sun path. So it's another really gigantic one, but I promise you it's a lot simpler than you think. No, just sun path. Under 2.
It's under 2.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll give you the location here. So this is okay. So what we need to connect here is the location. Okay, so location, see how it says it's a text summarizing the location data? So if you just plug the location of that into the location of this, it will borrow a lot of the properties that you need. So here is the top view. It already created the information that you need. So if you go into perspective, check that out. So just a second here, I'm going to grab a couple points so I can, let me, guys, sorry, I got to rein you in every now and then. What I'm doing here is because I was zoomed all the way out, I'm trying to zoom all the way in, and it gave me, well, it wouldn't let me zoom in. So I just dropped in some geometry so that it would recalibrate. Okay. So this is our sun path diagram, which by now you should be at least somewhat familiar with, but you probably don't understand all the information on it yet. Okay. So let's take a look at the structure of the sun path diagram. And to do that, I'm going to go into the top view. All right, this is the sun path diagram. You guys okay? You guys are good? Okay. All right, so the sun path diagram, if you look at the circle around the outside, let's start there. Okay, so it starts with north at the top, and then it goes 30, 60, and then east, and then 120, 150, and then south, and so on and so forth to west, and then north. Okay, so this is essentially the, I guess, it's the azimuth, right? So the azimuth is the direction that the sun is coming into your sight, not tangential. How do I describe it? So let's say our tangent plane on the Earth is right there. It's the direction that your sun is coming in, perpendicular to the tangent plane, basically. So angularly, I guess you would say. It's hard to describe. So basically, I should probably just look up an actual definition for it. So let's say it this way, right? So you guys know that the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west, right?
Now I do.
You knew that before, right? Anyway, so the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west. So let's say our house is right here, right? Like you wake up in the morning, you're getting ready to go to school, and you look out your front door, right? Your house faces north. So it's facing, whatever, north. And the sun is coming up on your right side. Okay, so the sun comes up on your right side as you look out the door, right? It's coming up like that. And so later on in the day, if you go home for lunch, right, the sun kind of looks like it's pretty much right on top of your house, but it's coming down from behind you, right? Because outside of your front door, it's facing north. But if you have a kitchen that faces south, right, you can see the sun coming into your kitchen because it's south of your house, meaning that it's coming in from this direction. Okay? And then it sets in the west. So if you're leaving to go get dinner or something like that, right? Then you're also facing north as you exit your house, and you see the sun is now setting to your left. Okay, that's why when you're driving on the 60, you can because it's just a straight east-west freeway. Depending on what time of day you're driving down it, if you're heading out to, or if you're coming here from Corona in the morning, you're good. You're not going to get blasted with sun. But if you're heading back that way, you're just going to get blasted with sun in the morning, okay, and vice versa. So that was a very long-winded explanation, but what I'm trying to get at here is that because of our angle of declination on the planet, that's why we have this dip across the graph. And I'll talk about what all the lines on the graph are in just a second, but basically our perpendicular, like if we step out of our house and we look straight up, it's there. It's going that way, right? But the sunlight is coming in this way. That means that that is the angle or the altitude angle of the sun coming into our sight. So we take that diagram, we flatten it, right? That's looking straight up. Our sun is coming in here. So this angle, which is the same as this angle, that's x, this is x, right? That's the same thing. That's our altitude angle. And the azimuth is just the direction from where you're facing, basically, okay, to north. So the lines of this diagram, okay, the horizontal lines should be broken up by months. Yeah. that should be broken up by months, I believe. I don't know. It's been a while since I worked with these. So these are broken up by months, where basically I think this is January, is going to be the lowest altitude, right? So, what's that? Yeah, December. Yeah, you're right. So that's going to be the lowest altitude. And then that's going to be the highest altitude, so that's obviously our summer months. Okay, so those are your horizontals. These little loop-de-loops in the middle, those are the hours of the day. Okay, so let's look at what the information is that we have here. Okay, so this is very important to understand. We have hours, we have days, and we have months. Actually, I think I just misspoke. Sorry, I'm getting confused here. Just a sec. Yeah. Yeah, they're the hours, days. Yeah, all right. So let's start overriding the input. So we have hours and we have days, and then we have the months themselves, okay? So we can actually override these with sliders that are going to modify the standard point of origin along the sun path, okay? And this is really just for study. We haven't really produced anything with it yet, so this is just for us to understand the position of the sun, and then we can process it into workable geometry later on, okay? So we go to hours and we drop in a slider. So for hours, right, we want to put in the correct number of hours in a day. So our slider is going to go from anywhere from 1 to 24. So I'm going to start here and say 1 is less than 24. We plug that in. Don't worry, you should see an error. And then we have to put in the days and the months. So for the days, I'm going to double click that and change it to 1 to 31. And then months is obviously going to go 1 to 12. What error is it giving me? Oh yeah, that's right. So what I have input here, because everything defaulted at 1, my hour of the day is currently at 1 a.m. So if you're familiar with the times of the day, at least, at 1 a.m., yeah, we already rotated around, right? We took a revolution, so we're not in the field of view of the sun. Right at that point, we're over here, and we're facing that way. So there is no sun, and that's what the error is. And if you hover over the error tag, it says nighttime. So we need to move our slider over until we actually are in the daytime. All right, I did have that backwards. I did misspeak. Those aren't the months, those are the hours. All right, so anyway, so if you hover around, your midday hours, what you're going to see is that the sun goes back and forth across the bottom rung, right? Because our month is set to 1 and our day is set to 1. So it's pretty close to the winter solstice. Okay? So, huh?
January 1st?
Yeah, it's not exactly. It's pretty close too. Okay. So we can change the month by switching it up to something like, I'm just going to go to the middle of the year, so July. So when we go to July, now you'll see that the sun is coming in around that top rung. Okay, so this right now is representative of approximately our highest altitude angle. And then additionally, you can change the days. So these days right here That's not going to change much for us. Yeah. I'm trying to think of the best way to display days, but it won't really change much. All right. So basically, if I change the months in the middle of the day like this, what you're going to see is that it swoops around this little loop-de-doop here. And that's because at different, let's say we're at noon, right? So the hour is noon, and the day doesn't really matter. We could just put it in the middle of the month. During different months of the year, noon is going to fall at a different point in the sky. And that's why it looks like this. Okay, so it just has to do with the angle of declination and our orientation on the planet at that particular time of year. All right, so something that I want to just point out to you real quick is that when you have a building on site, so let's say, you see right here I've got my origin. So if I have a building in there, yeah, I know, it's really cool, huh? So if I have a building in there, right, if I need to display some kind of diagram for it, and this is just easy, all I have to do is change the sun path scale to make it fit around my building, right? So I can make a slider. I'm going to say 0 is less than, I don't know what scale I'm currently at, so I'll just say 5.55 is less than 10. So 0 less than 5.55 less than 10. Plug it into sun path scale. Right now it's really huge. So I actually need to go down lower, much lower. And you could do something like this to make it a little bit more palatable.
What was the sun path?
Sun path scale.
What was that max?
I made it up to 10, but it doesn't really matter because you're actually going to go down into a fraction. Well, I guess it depends on how big you made your thing, your box.
The diagram doesn't pop out of my perspective.
Just zoom out a lot.
There we go.
Okay, so that is a basic functionality of the sun path diagram. Okay, so one of the things that you'll need to know about this is that you have to get more information out of it. So what's really cool, at least in my opinion, you have so you have information that you can use to generate other geometry. So in this case, we've got sun vectors, which, like I said before, right, back up to this diagram. The sun rays are going to be assumed to be parallel at all times, and that's where you would get the angle of the sun rays from sun vectors. I don't think you need to do much with this, but sun spheres, mesh, the sun path curves, all that stuff is just information for baking, basically. If you want to export this information can be baked. And this is what we're going to go into in the next class, is how do you actually bake it out and create something with it. So the bake it function has a couple of different settings. You just make it 0, 1, or 2 for the different types of settings, which we'll talk about next time. You can, well, the rest of it we don't really need right now. Okay, so I'm going to stop this video here, and then I'm going to move into, the last resource I want to give you here today, which is basically the Hydra component. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second.